Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administrations confirm parts of the BP oil slick have entered the Gulf Loop current, which could carry the oil to the Florida Keys and even possibly up the Atlantic coast. Government scientists say it could take 7 days for oil to reach Florida's waters. U.S. officials have also opened talks with Cuba on contingency planning in case the spill reaches Cuban shores. Oil's already reached the fragile wetlands of the Louisiana coast. On Wednesday, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal said he's asked for intensified efforts to defend the coastline from incoming oil.
We've got to be completely focused on defending this coast. The cost, the difference between keeping this oil out and having this oil in this wetlands, it literally could be life or death for many of these species.
At a congressional hearing Wednesday, a professor at Purdue University told lawmakers the oil spill may now be 95,000 barrels or 4 million gallons of oil a day, 19 times BP's estimate of 5,000 barrels a day. We'll have more on the oil spill after headlines. The Senate's failed to advance the financial regulation bill after 3 weeks of debate. On Wednesday, the Senate voted 57 to 42 on a cloture motion, 3 short of the 60 needed to bring the measure to a vote. Democratic Senators Russell Feingold of Wisconsin and Maria Cantwell of Washington voted with Republicans against cloture, each saying they want more robust provisions to regulate financial firms. Another cloture vote is expected today. Senate Banking Committee Chair Christopher Dodd, meanwhile, has abandoned his effort to weaken a provision that would ban Wall Street firms from acting as brokers for most forms of derivative trades. Dodd had called for suspending the ban for 2 years and allowing the U.S. Treasury to cancel it altogether. But on Wednesday, Dodd said he won't bring his amendment up for vote. New figures, meanwhile, show the number of financial industry lobbyists opposing an overhaul of the derivatives market outnumber pro-reform lobbyists by a ratio of 11 to 1. The group Public Citizen says 903 lobbyists have worked to oppose the reform compared to the 79 working for its passage. New figures show the number of homeowners behind on their mortgage payments is at a record high. The Mortgage Bankers Association says more than 1 in 10 homeowners missed a payment in the first quarter of this year. More than 4.6% of homeowners were in foreclosure during the same period, also a record. Homeowners with fixed conventional loans now mark the fastest-growing group in foreclosure, accounting for 37% of the total. The nation's top scientific panel has endorsed a carbon tax on greenhouse gas-causing fossil fuels. In a series of new reports, the National Academy of Sciences National Research Council endorses for the first time the view global warming is mainly caused by human activity and calls on the U.S. to limit overall emissions, in part through a carbon tax. The mothers of the 3 jailed U.S. hikers in Iran have arrived in Tehran to visit their children for the first time since their arrest last year. Shane Bauer, Sarah Shourd, and Josh Fatal were detained in July after straying across Iran's border during a hiking trip in northern Iraq. Bauer's mother, Cindy Hickey, said she hopes to win their release.
Very grateful. We're closer to our children, so it's very emotional for us. You know, I'm very grateful to the Iranian authorities for allowing us to be here. I come with an open heart. I come with a grateful heart, and I come with a mother's heart. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing my son and his 2 friends. And I have real strong hopes of the great possibility of bringing them home. I would like to plead for that.
You can see our interview with 2 of the mothers at democracynow.org. The founder of the whistleblower website WikiLeaks has had his passport confiscated in his native Australia. Julian Assange says Australian officials told him his passport would be cancelled because it looks worn. Last year, WikiLeaks sparked a controversy in Australia after publishing a list of websites the Australian government had been preparing to blacklist, even though the sites had no links to the stated reason of child pornography. And last month, WikiLeaks drew international attention after releasing a classified U.S. military video showing a U.S. helicopter gun chip indiscriminately firing on Iraqi civilians in 2007. You can also go to our website at democracynow.org to see our interview with Julian Assange. In Colombia, a leading activist for Colombians displaced by paramilitary groups has been killed in a targeted attack. Rogelio Martinez was shot dead near his home in Sucre province on Tuesday. The 51-year-old Martinez was in the midst of a dispute with a paramilitary group over a large farm inhabited by over 50 families. It was at least the 34th killing of a displaced leader in Colombia since 2002. The Oscar-winning actor Sean Penn appeared before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee Wednesday to appeal for increased aid to earthquake-ravaged Haiti. Penn has run a camp for displaced Haitians in the aftermath of the quake.
I come here today in hope that we'll address with bold clarity the razor's edge upon which Haiti lies, so that all in our own country, all that our country has given in sacrifice and service, will not be washed away with this rainy season and leave bright and dancing Haitian eyes to go still in death from disease and flood, and God forbid the man-made disaster of violent unrest.
Meanwhile, in Haiti, President Prévals is facing increased calls to step down. Earlier this week, Haitian police fired tear gas at a crowd of over 2,000 protesters demanding Prévals' resignation. It was the largest political demonstration in Haiti since the January earthquake. Protester Renan Etienne said he opposes the possibility of Prévals extending his term beyond its scheduled end date next February.
Today we are here to ask him to step down democratically and constitutionally. There is enough argument within the Constitution to have an election within 90 days and put in place another person in the palace to lead the country in the right direction.
President Obama is hosting Mexican President Felipe Calderón in Washington in their first meeting since the passage of Arizona's anti-immigrant law last month. At a joint White House news conference, President Obama criticized the law.
There's a strong proposal in the Senate based on a bipartisan framework, and it can and should move forward. We also discussed the new law in Arizona, which is a misdirected effort, a misdirected expression of frustration over our broken immigration system, and which has raised concerns in both our countries. Today, I want every American to know my administration has devoted unprecedented resources in personnel and technology to securing our border.
First Lady Michelle Obama, meanwhile, was drawn into the immigration debate Wednesday by an unexpected source. On a visit to a Maryland elementary school with Mexico's First Lady, Margarita Zavala, a second-grade student told Michelle Obama she's concerned President Obama plans to deport people like her mother who doesn't have legal immigration status.
Mom said my mom saw Barack Obama. My mom said that I think that she says that Barack Obama's taking everybody away that doesn't pass papers.
Yeah, well, that's something that we have to work on, right? To make sure that people can be here with the right kind of papers, right? That's exactly right. Yeah, well, we have to work on that. We have to fix that. And that everybody's got to work together in Congress to make sure that that happens.
We'll have more on immigration news later in the broadcast. We'll interview 3 students who were arrested at a sit-in at Senator McCain's office in Arizona for calling for his support for the DREAM Act. After they were arrested, they were brought into immigration detention. They now face deportation. And a recent interview shows the new Republican Senate nominee in Kentucky, Rand Paul, opposes enforcing the Civil Rights Act on private businesses. In an interview with the Louisville Courier-Journal conducted last month, Rand Paul suggested anti-discrimination laws should only apply to public institutions.
Of telling private business owners, I abhor racism. I think it's a bad business decision to ever exclude anybody from your restaurant. But at the same time, I do believe in private ownership. But I think there should be absolutely no discrimination in anything that gets any public funding. And that's most of what the Civil Rights Act was about, to my mind.
But under your philosophy, it would be okay for Dr. King not to be served at the counter at Woolworths.
I would not go to that Woolworths, and I would stand up in my community and say it's abhorrent. But the hard part, and this is the hard part about believing in freedom, is if you believe in the First Amendment, for example, you have to, for example, most good defenders of the First Amendment will believe in abhorrent groups standing up and saying awful things.
Last night, Rand Paul appeared on MSNBC's Rachel Maddow show, where he was questioned about his views. Paul said he favored desegregating public areas like water fountains in schools in the 60s, but suggested he would have opposed efforts to desegregate privately owned lunch counters.